We're back in Lithuania. Laymen Ministries have been working here for 24 years now. I remember when we came in 1993, there was about 47 to 50 Seventh-day Adventists in the whole country, so Laymen Ministries was involved with pioneering the work in this country. If you've never heard the story about how we ended up coming here in the first place, you're going to want to contact our ministry and get the DVD called The Dream, or you can go on Laymen Ministries' YouTube channel and watch the video on there. On this trip, I brought two former missionaries with me, Jonathan Peoples and Joshua Miller. And both of these young men came over as student missionaries. They were in and out of the country and actually lived here, Jonathan for 7 years and Joshua for 12 years, and they're going to be reminiscing a bit. Also on this program, we're going to tell you about our Bible Worker program and our paper that is called The Source of Hope, and we're going to even show you some traditional Lithuanian cooking. Lithuania is situated in Northern Europe in an area called the Baltics, with Russia to the east and Poland to the south, and it has a population of about 3.5 million people. Lithuania has been one of the most occupied countries in all of Europe, yet on the other hand, in the earlier centuries when Vatatius the Great was king, it occupied the territories of present-day Belarus, Ukraine, and parts of Poland and Russia. By the end of the 14th century, Lithuania stretched across a substantial part of Europe, from the Baltic to the Black Sea. Life in Lithuania is difficult, especially with the growing worldwide recession. Unemployment is at all-time highs. It has some of the highest rates in all of Europe for alcoholism, depression, and suicide. In the cities, people are crowded into these small block of flats, or what we call apartment house complexes. Life in the country is difficult. The people survive by growing food and keeping it in store for the long winters. Today, while growing more and more secular like much of Europe, the Catholic Church is the state-recognized religion. Just to show you how deeply seated Catholicism is, we headed out into the countryside to a small town called Szaluvia, where there's a shrine and a church dedicated to the supposed apparition of the Virgin Mary. As the Teutonic Knights' conquest in Lithuania started to spread Catholicism, churches started to spring up in a lot of different areas, like this area here. In 1457, a man by the name of Peter founded a church in this little area of Lithuania, and it became known as Szaluvia. After the little church was established here in Szaluvia, Calvinists started to move into this area and had a great influence. And because of that, in 1532, the priest at the church at Szaluvia made a great big huge wooden box that was covered with this ironclad material. And he put in it a picture of the Virgin Mary and some vestments and things like that, and also a document that proved that this land was actually given to the Catholic Church under the rule of Vladius the Great, was I think who the emperor was at the time. And he put all these things and he went over by a rock, he buried it in the ground really deep, and then shortly after that the Calvinists had a really strong influence. They took possession of the church and all the property in that area, and over the next 80 years the Catholic Church in this area started to die out. And in 1608, some children in this area were out tending sheep, playing, and then all of a sudden on a big rock, they saw the Virgin Mary appear, clad in white and blue garments, carrying the baby Jesus, and she was profusely crying. Tears were running down her face, and she was wailing, and it was making the rock wet around her. Well, they ran and told some of the local village people what they saw, and how this woman that they saw appear was surrounded by an aura of a light of some sort. And everybody came to the conclusion that this had to be the Virgin Mary, that she had appeared in this area. Well, when the Calvinist pastors found out what happened, they attributed this manifestation as an evil spirit. But a lot of the local village people here believed that this was really the Virgin Mary who had appeared and was was weeping bitterly because Catholicism had waned in this area and the church had been taken over by the Calvinists. Needless to say, this supposed apparition of the Virgin Mary created quite a stir in the local community, and it actually started a revival amongst those backslidden Catholics. The story started to spread to a lot of the villages around the area, and about 3 years after the supposed appearance, an elderly man who was over 100 years old, who was nearly blind, heard the story, and he remembered 80 years before that he had helped this Catholic priest to bury this ironclad box by this rock. And even though he was nearly blind, and it was 80 years later and he was an old man, the miraculous story goes, he took some of the villagers to the exact spot where this box was supposedly buried. They dug and dug and dug, and sure enough, they found the box. They opened it up. They found a picture of the Virgin Mary inside, some vestments from the church, and some documents that proved that that property belonged to the Catholic Church, and they were endorsed by Vladius the Great, who was one of the emperors of the Lithuanian Empire way back years before. And so those documents were taken to the local councilman, and legal battle started, and eventually the church and property came back to the Catholics, and a large Catholic church was built here to commemorate this whole event. We left Shiluvia to head to a place called Merkini, which is deep in the forests of central Lithuania. Paganism has deep cultural roots here in Lithuania. In fact, it's even recognized by the government. Statistics say that the majority of the people profess Catholicism, but 37% of the people of Lithuania do not believe in a regular organized religion, but they do believe in spiritual or supernatural forces that influence people. This is a good example of what I'm talking about. This is the Merkini New Age Pyramid. This is kind of a center of enlightenment here in Lithuania. A man by the name of Zukas had these spiritual revelations in which God told him this was a special spot where there's kind of like some kind of special forces here. And he was shown in vision the exact size and measurements of a pyramid in which somehow triangulates all these spiritual forces. And later they put this large geodesic dome over this pyramid. In the late 13th century, the Teutonic Knights, which were like the military branch of the Catholic Church, came here and started forcing the Lithuanian pagans to convert to Catholicism. And really what ended up happening is that while a lot of them started to profess Catholicism, they were just mixing and matching a new form of paganism. Despite the many cultural and historical challenges we face in Lithuania, Laymen Ministries is shedding the light of Bible truth and hope to people across this little country. We publish a paper entitled The Source of Hope, which is circulated all across the country. Our director, Arunas, and his wife, Naringa, head up the publishing and distribution of this paper. They and others have set up paper stands all over the country. Even as they were restocking this rack at a large shopping center, a lady stopped and shared how much she appreciates the paper. We started the paper in 2011, printing only 1,500 copies. Today we have a quarterly print run of 50,000.
We have a stands, newspaper stands in Marijampolė, 3 of them in shops, 2 of them in shops, and one more in the hospital. And we're very excited to have them here, especially in the hospital, because people are relaxed and they are getting newspaper and they reading them. And we every week we're putting 300 newspapers in those stands.
Each paper is 8 pages in length, printed in full color. The paper targets people of all ages. There are articles about family, health topics, and how to understand the Bible, how to pray, and other simple articles to help people to grow in Jesus Christ. We try to find good Adventist writers since they best understand the people and culture of Lithuania. Sometimes Pastor Arunas and his wife, Naringa, write articles, as well as authors such as myself and others from America. Our Bible workers stock stands all across Lithuania. Summer festivals and events are a great time to share the paper. They go to the people in hospitals and in homeless shelters. Church groups mobilize to share on Sabbaths. Every quarter they're mailed to subscribers. Youth groups take them door to door. Even in the small shopping center, we found copies right at the checkout stand. Kazimirius was walking in a park one day when he was handed one of our papers by a church member. Today he is baptized and regularly attends group Bible studies led out by one of our Bible workers named Gina. He loves to read the Bible. The paper, the source of hope, brought hope to his life. Joshua Miller and I went to Arunas and Naringa's home. It had been a couple years since I'd been here, and for Joshua and John, quite a number of years. We were all like family. Arunas wasted no time to tell us about the latest activities with the paper, The Source of Hope. He explained how this paper has really taken off across the country.
Many people just calling us back and asking to send them more copies, to send to their neighbors, and many calls, many text messages. My wife Neringa is making layout and just choosing all pictures, and after that she getting most calls and text messages and sending these addresses which people live and they want to get copy, sending the paper if they live far away in village. If nearby some Adventists, she is getting these addresses, giving these addresses to people, Adventist people, to visit, to make a contact.
Speaking of contacts, Arunas and his wife Naringa often visit people in the area where they live. If people have questions, they give away books and tracts and offer to deliver them personally. In this case, an elderly woman showed an interest, and a visit was made which led to giving her Bible studies. People like this are often lonely and are searching for a purpose in life. Naringa loves playing her guitar and singing to people like this. This day there were questions about what the Bible said in contrast to what she had learned in the Catholic Church. She was finding discrepancies and was looking for answers. This lady's husband had passed away, and her children had moved out of the country. Today we're meeting with the Bible workers. Every time I come to Lithuania, I spend usually 1 or 2 days with them, just to kind of feel what's happening with them in their lives and to encourage them as they do outreach here in Lithuania. I always like to tell them about what's happening with Laymen Ministries in other countries and to share words of encouragement. Our team of Bible workers are scattered all across the country, so getting together is a special time for them. We then sit back in a circle and talk about the challenges and blessings of the work. and how we can look for new ways to share the gospel. Some of our Bible workers have been with Laymen Ministries for many years, such as Pastor Julius Bakunas. We made a long drive out into the countryside where Julius lives because we were told he was holding a weekend youth camp at his home. We were met by his wife Roma, who served Laymen Ministries as a Bible worker for many years. She recently retired and now helps Julius with the youth camps. So I guess they have kind of like, they've set their place up to be kind of like a youth camp. And so they have like a kitchen in here. It's all set up there. And they have a church over there. And this is all in Julius's property. He's a Bible worker, was a Bible worker pastor that Laymen Ministries supports here. Rainy. This is Lithuania. You know, Lithuania is about the same as the panhandle of Alaska. So for all you folks in Alaska, this is very similar to where you live. Julius was just finishing having classes and games with the younger children. Many of our Bible workers are involved with youth through a program very similar to that of Pathfinders. Instead of just being involved as a pastor, he's also doing a lot of outreach with kids, especially in the summertime. They're having like camps here. And then they have like another small chapel right over there where they have meetings with kids. He works with mostly younger kids on the side. I mean, he's a pastor of a church involved with Bible studies, handing out literature and things like that. But this is also something that he and his wife have a burden for as far as working with young kids. Yep, this is it.
This is Georgita.
Aha. I know you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good to see you. Wonderful. Georgita, a longtime friend and church worker, was holding meetings with some of the teens. She uses creative and interactive group discussions where the youth are challenged spiritually. It was obvious that they were really enjoying this interaction. I had a chance to share my testimony with him about how I became an Adventist Christian. Another one of our Bible workers, named Robertas Girgas, holds summer camps for youths of all ages. They have serious study times, group discussions, and are taught teamwork, survival skills, and to go door to door with our paper, the source of hope. Often on Laymen Ministries television programs, we like to take you into the kitchen in different countries so you can experience some of the cultural food. And Ringa and her sister Agna, I think it's like Agnes, but it's Agna, did I say it right? She says okay, yeah. But they're going to cook some kind of traditional Lithuanian food today. And what is it called again?
Vertini.
Vertini?
Vertini.
Okay, and from what I understand, it's kind of like a potato dumpling. But if you watch some of our other programs, they made like zeppelinis one time, and those are kind of like a football-looking potato dumpling, and those are pretty delicious actually, but this is going to be something different. So what are you going to do first?
Pirmiausia, mes darysime tešlą.
First, they're going to make a dough.
Mes naudosime miltus,
They're going to use flour,
kiaušinius,
eggs,
druską ir vandenį.
salt, and water.
So it's basically they're making like a pastry crust of
Yeah.
some sort. Okay. Gerai! That's what they say in Lithuania for good. Gerai! Some places. She's getting into it now. So what's the next thing on your list of things to do?
Koks sekantis žingsnis dabar?
Galvaškę pasidarom.
They're going to use cheese curds, which I guess the closest thing in the United States that we would have that's common would be cottage cheese, but you'd have to squeeze the liquid out of it. It's already dry here.
It's something that is really common in Europe that you don't see as much in the United States. It's kind of like this, like almost like a mozzarella cheese, but it's even fresher and it has water in it. And it's not like feta cheese, but it's a, yeah, I guess you'll get to see what it looks like here in a second.
one with the curds has been finished, and now they're going to start on the potato filling, because they're going to do 2 different fillings for these dumplings.
Some of these are going to have potatoes inside of them.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Look at that. That works fine. So Joshua, what is the next thing she's going to do right now?
Dabar koks sekantis dalykas tu darysi.
Mes turime pasiruošę varškę
They've got the cheese curds ready,
Mm-hmm.
ir mes dabar dėsime varškę į vidų.
and they're going to put, so they'll take about half of them, since we got potatoes and the cheese curds, they'll do about half of them with the cheese curds, and so they're going to put it inside,
Fold them up.
fold them in half and squeeze down the edges to make sure no water can get inside them, and then they're put in the pot and cooked.
We had quite a bit of discussion about what to call these, because in Poland they make something similar to this, and it's called a pierogi. And in America we make dumplings, but dumplings usually are just like a wadded up piece of dough that's boiled. But these are like a dumpling that have a stuffing inside, so kind of real similar to the Polish pierogi. This is the final product, and it does look a lot like a Polish pierogi. You have the mushroom sauce there, and I'm going to give it a taste test. And like most dumpling type things, it's got a little bit of a soft texture. And it's actually pretty good. In the mid-1990s, Laymen Ministries started a student missionary program in Lithuania. We sent over youth such as Joshua Miller, Jonathan Peoples, Jeremy Calkins, and Shannon Parker. Joshua ended staying a total of 12 years, and Jonathan around 7 years. Jonathan was later trained as a videographer and traveled around the world with me shooting video for our television programs. They ended up helping pioneer a lot of the work in this little country. They both came with me on this trip and spent some time remembering about their years working here.
You know, John, it's amazing. It's 23 years later, almost to the day that I first came to Lithuania.
It's a long time ago.
It is. It's hard to believe. I mean, it seems like just yesterday now, but here we are. You know, I remember it was almost a day like this, maybe a little colder, maybe a little wetter. You know, when I first landed, I didn't know what we were getting into. Kind of scared. I was young, 19 years old, first time away from mom and dad, except for, you know, academy. But
Right. So after graduation, I had the opportunity to go sell books, which was actually partially my first opportunity to learn how to sell books. And it was during that time I learned that maybe I could possibly teach others how to sell books. So Rich had already asked me before, during the school year, if I wanted to go to Lithuania and sell books, and I had said no. I was going to go log and I was going to go to Weimar to get some education. But at the end of the summer, it turned out that one of my friends who had been going to go to Lithuania had to back out because of family situation. And so that left it open for me. And so I told Jeff I would go. So that's kind of the reason why I showed up here in Lithuania. The second year after you and Shannon had gone back home, we returned together. And that was the purpose of our trip here to
So
Lithuania.
John, what was your first impression when you got here? You know, see, like for me, it was gray, dark, it was cold, and it was about October, I think, when you came back.
I think it was mid-October when I came over here, and at that time it was very cold. I remember the first Ministries meeting we had. It was freezing cold. We had snow, and it was definitely a dreary place.
In 1995, when Shannon and I first came to Lithuania, Laymen Ministries had already established a publishing work here in Lithuania. You know, they were printing a lot of Ellen White books, some health books, and even though all of these books were being printed, they were not being sold. I mean, the church only had 300, maybe 400 church members, and that's not enough to be able to support a publishing house.
They had a lot of books just sitting
Yes, yes, they did. And so Jeff asked Shannon and I to come to Lithuania because he knew that we had colporteur experience,
Right.
and try to teach the locals how to sell books. And so Shannon and I, that first year, we spent a lot of time working with the youth and young people. We took them out door to door, and you know, you take these 5-story apartment buildings like we have behind you here,
Right.
and you know, when we'd go from door to door, it was amazing. It was every single place that we visited, we sold a book.
Wow.
I mean, it really was. I mean, wow doesn't even describe it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But we were told, you know, it was a very communist way of thinking back in those days, and they did not believe that this was going to work. And so when they saw that result, it's like, well, you're only selling books because you're Americans. And you know, we did. We'd knock on the door, "Hi, my name is Josh, I'm from America."
Right.
Great opening wedge.
Right.
And so, but we told them, okay, tomorrow, you guys go out by yourselves and let's see what happens.
So how did that work?
Amazingly, they did the same thing. They were able to sell at almost every single door. They didn't have to say, "Hi, my name is Arūnas and I'm
Right.
from Lithuania."
Right.
They still sold books. The people were, I mean, they had a thirst for the knowledge.
Right.
And these Ellen White books, these health books, it was exactly what was needed.
Right.
And at the end of that 7 months, the mission president came to Shannon and I, and he said, "You know, would you guys please bring back some more young people just like you?" They were impressed with what we had accomplished. They loved the work that Laymen Ministries was doing here.
As I remember it, during the 2-week summer program that we had, the 23 people that were selling, we sold over 10,000 books.
Yeah, it was.
And that's very impressive.
But, you know, we've accomplished a lot while we were here.
Yep, that's true. We certainly tried.
But
Joshua and Jonathan were responsible for starting our orphanage projects in Lithuania many years ago. Laymen Ministries over the years has purchased needed clothing, shoes, toothbrushes, and other items for orphans across the country. And on this trip again, we were helping orphan children. We took the kids from the orphanage in Ukmergė to a local shopping mall and helped them purchase a couple $1,000s worth of needed clothing and shoes. It was Christmas come early. And of course, Naringa was there handing out spiritual books to the children and staff. Over the years, we have seen God bless the fruits of our labor by people giving their lives to Christ. Here are some of our current needs, as we pray that you will be impressed to help.